بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Last Monday we had discussed the year of sadness, or Aam al-Huzn as it is known. And the Aam al-Huzn, or the year of sadness, was the lowest point in the life of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that was for a number of reasons. It began with the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims leaving the boycotted valley, where they were in the valley of Abu Talib for 3 years. They've already lost all their energy, lost all their hopes. And then when the Prophet ﷺ makes it back into Mecca, the first thing that he has to experience is the death of his uncle Abu Talib. And that too, his uncle Abu Talib not accepting Islam. And that's very tough for the Prophet of Allah ﷺ to go through. Immediately after, about 30 to 40 days after, he loses his beloved wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And we spoke at length about why Khadija radiallahu anha was so important for the Prophet of Allah ﷺ in these 10 years especially. And she was the one who would protect the Prophet ﷺ when he was in his house. And then you had Abu Talib who would protect the Prophet ﷺ outside of his house. So he had a supporting cast with him. But now the Prophet ﷺ has lost both of them. So when he goes out, Abu Talib is no longer there to protect him. He's no longer there to face off with the Quraysh. And when the Prophet ﷺ comes home, Khadija is no longer there. So she can't comfort him, she can't welcome him. And rather the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he's worried about Fatima radiallahu anha, because she's now an orphan, she's lost her mother, and she's a young woman. She's about 12 or 13 years of age at this time. So imagine how difficult all of that is for the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. But even with all that going on, I had estimated that there would be very few things to discuss, and hence I would start Taif, which would be the great journey that the Prophet ﷺ would make to one of the areas outside of Mecca. But when I was preparing, I was surprised to find the amount of material that I found, that in this year, the 11th year, the year of sadness, the amount of material we have to discuss, and really some amazing stories, and some profound lessons that we learn in how to give da'wah, and some of the trials that we face when we are trying to practice on our deen, on our religion. So, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, if you've noticed a trend, that although overall things are not well, and things are very difficult for the Prophet of Allah ﷺ and the Muslims, but occasionally Allah Azza wa Jal will help the Prophet ﷺ with small victories. With small victories, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ will gain a bit of a boost. He'll feel better. And of those was the Islam of Hamza radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu anhu. It was a big boost to the Muslims. Of those was when the Muslims went to Habasha, when they went to Abyssinia. It was a sign of relief that the Muslims breathed when they sent their brothers and sisters to Abyssinia, and they were welcomed there. It was something very pleasant for the Prophet ﷺ to see. Similarly, when the Quraysh, they went out to Abyssinia and tried to bring back the Muslims, that was also something that they failed at, and hence the Muslims became protected, and they won over the Emperor An-Najashi. So these are small amounts of boosts of joy and peace that the Prophet of Allah ﷺ receives every once in a while. And in this year too, there's a lot coming up, because Taif would be the most difficult journey of the Prophet ﷺ. And he would say to Aisha radiallahu anha later on, he would say to her that when she would ask, Ya Rasulullah, what was the most severe part, the most difficult thing bearing as a prophet? And he said, Aisha, my time in Taif. Your people, they gave me such pain that I did not think a person could be hurt to that extent. That's how bad I was hurt. Emotionally, physically, really the lowest of the low that the Prophet faced. Now, before the Prophet leaves Taif though, he's in Mecca. And although he has lost his wife, And although he has lost his uncle, but that does not stop him from sticking to preaching his message. He still knows what he's sent to do. And he's still busy talking to the people of Quraysh, going out, talking to different people, spreading the message of Islam. And one of the most significant victories that the Prophet of Allah ﷺ would achieve in this year would be the Islam of Tufayl ibn Amr al-Dawsi. Tufayl, the son of Amr. Daws is the name of his tribe, Dawsi. And Tufayl, radiallahu anhu, his story is quite fascinating. He was the leader of his tribe, and his tribe was from the outskirts of Mecca. And so every so often, as you know by now, people would come into Mecca for different reasons. They'd come in for the Hajj, they'd come in for business, they'd come in for worshipping the idols, different reasons that you see people coming into Mecca. So Tufayl, he says that I prepared to come into Mecca. And I had nothing in my mind about Islam. I wasn't thinking about Islam. I was simply going because it had been a while since I visited the Kaaba. So I said, let me take a journey down there. And so when he goes there, the moment he enters, everybody knows that Tufayl is here. Right? He's that type of, when you have a very significant person, you have an ambassador, you have someone important coming to town, everybody knows beforehand that we have an important personality coming into town. And everybody wants to welcome them, everybody wants to speak to them. Tufayl was that man. And the Quraysh knew that this man, Tufayl, is the leader of his tribe. He's the leader of his people. And he's someone who's very significant. If the Prophet of Allah ﷺ wins him over, that means he wins over the tribe of Daws. And that's a big problem for us. Because the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, until now, actually no other tribe in its totality or majority had accepted Islam. It was just those few people in Mecca, those 100 to 130, that was all the Prophet ﷺ had. So Tufayl ibn Amr, he says that I headed to Mecca, and he describes himself, he says that كنت رجلا شريفا شاعرا لبيبا. He says I was a very innocent man. I wasn't known for doing wrong things. And on top of that, sha'ir, I was a poet. So it was my passion, it was my hobby to write poetry, to study poetry. And you can imagine automatically what that would mean when he would hear the Quran. Because the person who's well versed in the Arabic language, especially a poet, when he hears the Quran, there's a different type of feeling that he feels. Because that's something that he knows in and out. And he can immediately tell that this power is something else. So he says, I'm a poet, and I'm an innocent man, and I'm also Labib, and I'm also someone who's very smart. I'm the leader of my people. So he said something didn't add up when I came into Mecca, and all of a sudden, the people of Quraysh are telling me, they're inviting me to their homes, and they're saying, there is something important we want to discuss with you. So I'm kind of confused. What's going on here? So they bring me in, and they gather me, many of the leaders of Quraysh, and they say that we are here to warn you so that you don't get frauded out by someone. See, there's a man in Mecca you might have heard. His name is Muhammad. And what he does is that he uses his magic and he splits between families. He splits between a father and a son, between a man and his wife, and he has caused every source of corruption here. But see, here's the problem. Nobody understands this. Because people think we'll be able to hear him, but he has magic. And when he uses his magic, automatically that person accepts Islam. So we are here to tell you that don't even listen to him. And as a matter of fact, we won't let you go. We won't let you go until you promise to us that you will not only will you not listen to him, but you will put something in your ears to block him out completely. Zero tolerance. So he says, I said, okay. So he said, I took some cotton, kursufan, akhadtu kursufan. I took it and I put it in my ears. So I said, even if I hear something, even if I try to hear, I can't hear. Because my ears are blocked now. So there's no way possible his magic can affect me. So he said, I went to the Kaaba, and as was the custom, I began to do the tawaf. I began to go around the Kaaba. He says, as I was doing tawaf, I saw a man. And at this point, keep in mind, he doesn't know that this is the Prophet of Allah. He said, I saw a man, and that man was doing something. He was worshipping in a way that I had never seen before. You know, the salah in and of itself, sometimes you underestimate the power of salah. If you ask many people who accepted Islam, many of them simply accepted Islam because of seeing someone pray. Just the sight of seeing someone pray, it brings peace to the heart. It's something beautiful. But because sometimes we get so used to it, we forget that. And we actually become shy. Where we feel uneasy praying, in a public place. But it's actually something of beauty. And many people, they become intrigued that what is it that you're doing? You'd be surprised to hear the stories. He said, I was attracted by the Prophet's prayer. And the way he was worshiping, I said, this is a form of worship that I have never seen before. This is something unique. And he said that I came closer, and when I saw the Prophet's face, my heart felt a pull towards his face. And I said to myself, that this appears to be that man that they warned me about. But this does not seem to be a face of a liar. This is not how a liar looks. I felt an attraction. And you can imagine seeing the beloved face of the Prophet of Allah. So he said, I said to myself, وَاثُقْ لَأُمِّي. I said, I think I've lost my marbles. I don't know what it is that I'm doing. وَاثُقْ لَأُمِّي. May my mother cry over me? What have I agreed to? I've agreed to ignore this man, but I am someone who is labibun. I'm someone who is smart. He's intelligent. شاعر. I'm a poet. ما يخفى علي الحسن من القبيح. I know what is good and I know what is bad. I'm the leader of my people. The people come to me and I'm the one that resolves their disputes and conflicts. Have I lost my intellect to the point that I could hear this man and simply hearing him would affect me? I'm smarter than that. I'm wiser than that. And so he said that I took out what was in my ears. And I said, let me hear this man. And if he says something good, I'll accept it. And if he says something bad, I'll leave it. What is stopping me from listening to him? And so he said that I heard something of what he was saying. And ironically, the Prophet of Allah, what he was reciting, obviously the prayer at this time is only nothing, it's voluntary. He was reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas and Surah Al-Falaq. That's what he heard. These two surahs. And last Saturday at our monthly breakfast, I did a tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha. And I said that the surahs that are revealed in Mecca are actually very, very powerful. Even more powerful than the Madani surahs. And these surahs are the cause of some of the most intelligent people at that time of accepting Islam. And we overlook them. So the Ikhlas is, astaghfirullah, I don't mean to say it this way, but many of us don't think of it as anything. It's the surah that we go to when we want to get rid of our prayer. Quickly, let me get through it. That's how we treat Surah Al-Ikhlas. But Surah Al-Ikhlas is the reason why Tufayl ibn Amr is being attracted to Islam. He's being pulled by that. So he said, I heard Surah Al-Ikhlas and I heard Surah Al-Falaq. And he said that I said that this is something very powerful. And this seems to be a message that seems to be full of justice. So he said, I didn't know what to do. Because if I approached the Prophet of Allah, if I approached him, what would happen is that the Quraysh would find me. And they'd criticize me. Or they'd take me away from the Prophet of Allah. So I waited until it became dark. And then I followed the Prophet of Allah to his house. And he said, I went up to him. And I said, Ya Muhammad, I heard what you were reciting. Explain to me what it is that angers these people of Quraysh. What have you come with? So he said that there was never a more مَا رَأَيْتُ مُعَلِّمًا أَحْسَنَ مِنْهُ. I had never seen a more beautiful teacher than the Prophet of Allah. The way he taught, he said he sat me down. He gave me respect. Immediately you can see how the Prophet would give da'wah. He sat me down with respect. And then he explained to me. And he said that some time passed. And I thought over it and I said, I'm ready to accept. And then he said, I was so full of iman at that time. I was so excited. I said, Ya Rasulullah, إِنِّي مُرْءٌ مُطَاعٌ فِي قَوْمِي. I am someone who is obeyed in my people. I'm the leader of my people. وَأَنَا رَاجِعٌ إِلَيْهِمْ. And obviously I have to go back to my people. So how about if I was to call them to Islam? Is it okay? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, that's amazing. So he said, make dua that Allah guides me, and Allah gives me a sign, and Allah helps me when I go back to my people. And now he's newly discovered Islam. When he goes back to his people, he says, the first man I meet is my father. And my father sees me, so I said to my father, I said, Father, I think we're about to have a problem. Something's changed. So he said, you're my son. Lima ya bunayya, you're my son. I've become an old man now. Why would I want to lose my son? So I said, Aslamtu. I said, I've accepted Islam and I follow the deen of Muhammad. Straight up. If you don't like it, you don't like it. Straight up. And his father obviously was at old age and he knew that his son is someone wise. So he said, if you accepted Islam, there must be something behind it. Talk to me about Islam. Tell me what is Islam about. So he said, I explained to my father what Islam was about, and my father accepted this. Then he said, I went home. And here's the tougher part. Now he has to speak to his wife. So he said, now I'm at home. And he said that I speak to my wife and I tell her, I said I've accepted Islam. And, I fear that if you don't accept Islam, we're going to have difficulties in our marriage. So she said she also was very responsive. And he's getting happy now because he spoke to his father accepted Islam. Now his wife accepted Islam. And he tells his wife and his father that go and become pure. Take a bath, take a ghusl, go and become pure and come back to me. And now I have the Prophet had given him some parchments where he had some of the ayat written down. I want to share with you what I learned. And so he said, my wife, she said, where should I go? And keep in mind at that time you didn't have bathrooms. So you would have to go out and find a place where you would take a shower or where you'd bathe. So he said, out of all the places that came to mind, he tells her, he says, go to the idol of Dhushara. The place where the idol of Dhushara is the name of an idol. Go there and bathe and clean yourself there. And she says, Dhushara. She said, that water is cursed. I can't take a shower there. And she says that, aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid of our kids? Our kids would be cursed if I showered there. And you can see immediately how all of these superstitions are cleared up. Islam doesn't come with superstitions. He said, no, water is water. Trust your husband, trust me. I'm telling you, I can guarantee for you nothing will happen. So she went and she showered and she came back and she said, you're right, nothing happened. So does that mean all these idols that we've been scared all this time for no reason? He said, that's what's been happening. So he explained to her and she accepted Islam. Now all of this is well and good. But then he said, I went public. And he said, nobody would listen to me. Now I have my wife and I have my father, but nobody else is willing to listen to me, except for one person. He gave da'wah on his people for 2 months and nobody accepted Islam. Who was that one person? Let's hear a tribe. From the tribe of Dos. One person. Abdurrahman, no. Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah is the only person who accepted Islam on the hands of Tufail ibn Amr, out of all those people. And Tufail ibn Amr, he's continually going at his people. Nobody's listening to him. And he comes with Abu Hurairah, his wife and his father, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I failed. He comes back to Makkah, he says, I failed because I tried hard. But what happened is that all these few months that I spent, nobody listened except for my father, my wife, and Abu Hurairah. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, enough is enough. These people, قَدْ غَلَبَنِي عَلَى دَوْسٍ الزِّنَا. These people, what's overcome them is zina, fornication. They were a people of entertainment. So they enjoyed drinking and they enjoyed gambling and fornication. And they want bad stuff more than Islam. So Ya Rasulullah, make dua against them. Make dua against them that Allah destroys them. They don't deserve Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ, he raised his hands. And Abu Hurairah said, I became scared. because I remembered my family was in Dos. And I said, he's a true prophet. And when a true prophet raises his hands against the people, those people are destroyed. That's why it's very rare, and I spoke about this a few weeks ago, it's very rare that the Prophet ﷺ would make dua against someone. He would only make dua against someone when that person has consistently, time in and time out, attacked Islam and gone against Islam and tried everything to hurt the Muslims. So Abu Hurairah, he doesn't know this. He said the Prophet ﷺ raises his hands and I'm scared. And then the Prophet ﷺ, what I hear him say, Allahumma hdi dawsan. Allahumma hdi dawsan. Allahumma hdi dawsan. Oh Allah, guide the people of Dos. See, the Prophet ﷺ, he's teaching At-Tufail ibn Amr that things don't change overnight. Many a times we want things to change overnight. I went home, I told my kids, I said things are going to change from today. There's a new sheriff in town. We want to change things up very quickly. Or I go home and I expect my wife, or the wife expects the husband to change overnight. Change doesn't happen overnight. At-Tufail ibn Amr, he gives up because that's all he's seen. He doesn't know that the Prophet ﷺ has already spent 10 years, 10 years focusing on these people, and they still haven't accepted Islam. So we learn immediately that the message of truth, even if it is the truth, it takes time for people to adjust to it, to accept it. If the Prophet ﷺ is the one giving da'wah and people are taking time, imagine you and I. Imagine how effective we are. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Allahumma hdi dawsan. And he says, Abu Hurairah says, I was surprised. I was taken aback because I thought the Prophet ﷺ would make dua to destroy these people, but he's making dua for the hidayah, for the guidance of these people. So he said, the Prophet ﷺ told him, go back to your people. Urfuq bihim. Be gentle with them. Use wisdom and continue to call them towards Allah until Allah sends a sign for you, or I send a messenger for you, and then come and join me. And then Tufail said, I went back, and he said, I began to call my people towards Islam. And he said that some time passed. We're right now in the 11th year, we have 2 more years left to discuss, the 12th year and the 13th year. Then the Prophet ﷺ would go to Medina. So he said 2 years passed from here, then the battle of Badr has taken place, then Uhud has taken place, that's another 2 years, then Khandaq has taken place, that's another 2 years, then Khaybar takes place, that's another 2 years. He says, at that point, I come with my people to Medina, and we are 500 families. 500 families that accepted Islam. And I come with my people, I said, Ya Rasulullah, I've come with my people. 500 families that have accepted Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ tells him, did I not tell you, O Tufail, that it takes time for the message of Allah, it takes time for people to adjust to it. And immediately we learn here, and this story and the next one, they're very similar in how the Prophet ﷺ is dealing with people, how the Prophet ﷺ is training his companions for leadership. He's instilling in them those qualities that are required to stand forth. Many a times we think that we don't need these qualities, that simply us saying that it's the truth is going to work. But a number of other things are needed. The next story, if we attach it, and then inshallah we'll share our reflections together, is the story of Rukana. And Rukana was a wrestler. He was known to be, actually, Ibn Ishaq says, he was known to be Ashadda Quraysh. He was known to be an expert wrestler. The one person that had never lost in a fight, in a wrestle match. This person, he would avoid the Prophet of Allah ﷺ until one day the Prophet ﷺ came across him in the bazaar, in the marketplace. And immediately he ignored him. But the Prophet ﷺ, he called out to him. He said, Ya Rukana, is it not time that you listen to my message at least? You avoid me every time. And now Rukana doesn't want to be embarrassed, because keep in mind he's a celebrity. So these same people around him, every time you want some entertainment, you call over Rukana. Every time you want somebody challenges someone, you say Rukana is the one person, he's undefeated. You have wrestlers that you have undefeated champions. They have a special ranking in sports because nobody can beat them. It's Rukana. Nobody can beat him. And the Messenger of Allah, he said to him, and Rukana said, Ya Rasulullah, he didn't say Ya Rasulullah, he would say Ya Muhammad. He said, Ya Muhammad, I won't listen. Now the Messenger of Allah, he says, Oh Rukana, what if I wrestle you? Will you listen then? And Rukana is confused. And you can imagine here what we would think is, what does wrestling have to do with Islam? Why can't the Messenger of Allah say, Ya Rukana, you're going to go to Jahannam if you don't accept Islam? He says, Ya Rukana, why don't you wrestle me? And then we'll talk about Islam. And Rukana, he's taken by surprise, but he's not worried. He said, nobody has beaten me. He says, you know that, right? Nobody has put my back to the ground. The Messenger of Allah, he says, you leave me to that. And the Messenger of Allah wrestles him once. And he takes him down. And Rukana says, no, I wasn't prepared. You caught me off guard. And tell you what, 100 goats, if you beat me again, 100 goats. Messenger of Allah said, okay, let's go. He takes him down, he throws him again. Third time, Rukana says, no, 100 more. And gambling is not prohibited at this time. The Prophet said, okay. He wrestles him again and he beats him. And then everyone is saying, Rukana, come on. It's been 3 times now. You gave your word. He said, okay, here's the 200 goats. The Prophet of Allah he said, I don't want your goats. Keep your goats. Hear my message. And then he speaks to him about Islam. And then Rukana accepts Islam. The Prophet of Allah, when he's giving da'wah, every person that you're talking to, you don't have to give them da'wah in the same way. Everybody does not simply accept Islam due to a lecture, due to you telling them seriously. There are different ways you bring people together. See, when the Prophet would go to Medina, one day we learn a hadith in which the issue of the Dajjal and the signs of the Day of Judgment that the Prophet told. In that hadith, Hudayfa he said the Prophet began talking to us after Fajr, and then he spoke till Dhuhr, and then we had a break for Dhuhr. Then he spoke till Asr, then we had a break for Asr. Then he spoke till Maghrib, then we had a break for Maghrib, then he spoke till Isha. The whole day the Prophet gave a lecture. But those were the companions that he knew they could bear it. He knew their level. Everybody has different levels. And that's why when we try to do community programs, and that's what we try to do here, the entire idea behind the pizza party, the prize draw, these are all from the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, literally. You couldn't make this up. He's wrestling Rukana. There's nothing about proving how the Quran is true. No, he's finding an avenue to get to him. And then when that person is on the same wavelength, then you sit down and then you talk to them about Islam. Then you tell them what's Islam all about. Then they're willing to tune in. Then they're willing to listen. So the Prophet of Allah, Rukana accepts Islam. And there are three principles that we learn that the scholars derive from the story of Rukana. And these 3 principles are the core principles for anyone wishing to give da'wah, to reach out to someone else, to bring someone closer to the deen. There are 3 ones that are very important. The first is conviction. You have to believe, and you have to have the conviction that what you're saying is true. And the second being that you have to be motivated. You can't give up easily. That's what we learn from the story of Tufayl radiallahu anhu. Tufayl radiallahu anhu, he was trying to give up. The Prophet of Allah said, no, you have to be motivated. And keep in mind, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, how motivated he was. When we discussed, when he accepted Islam, within the first few days, 5 people had already accepted Islam. He was so motivated. And the third thing is to be tactful, to understand that there are different ways to approach different people. One of my teachers, by the name of Maulana Tariq Jameel, those who speak the Urdu language would know of him. He told us of a story once, and this was my second year when I was studying, and at that time I was still learning Arabic. And he told us of him speaking to one of the biggest landlords in his area. And this was a man that would not entertain any religious person. They call them Molvis, right? He's like, I don't want no Molvi money. So he said, he comes from a family that is well known, and he said that I went to him, and one of my teachers who actually narrated this as well was with him. So he said that when Maulana Tariq went to speak to him, and he opened the door, he got time and an appointment from him. He said, what are you here for? He said, I need to discuss something about my horses. So he said, we got confused. We said that we're here for da'wah. We're here to invite him to the masjid to an event. Why is he speaking to him about horses? Well, it became quiet because he's senior. So he said, yeah, come in. And he said, I told him I'm such and such, this is my village. He said, I sat down. And for 2 hours, we sat down and he was so interested. And he's speaking all about horses. Different breeds, different types of horses. And we're all like, we're here wasting time. We're supposed to be giving da'wah to these people, not talking to them about horses. But he said, what we don't know is that He's preparing him to listen in. So he said, after 2 hours passed, he said, did you come here just to speak to me about horses? He said, no. He said, I came to you to talk about horses, and I also wanted to tell you that we have such and such program going on. I'd like for you to join us. I'd like for you to come to the masjid. Check things out. So he said he was so moved that man, he came to the masjid. And the people of that area, they said, this is impossible, we don't believe it. This man never comes to the masjid. How did you get him to come in the masjid? It was very simple. He engaged with him on a similar wavelength, something that he could relate to. And then nobody is that hard-hearted, especially someone with iman. They understand. But you get him on a wavelength. When I was there, one of my personal stories that I'll share is that in my last year where we were staying, one of our hosts, he told us about how in our entire neighborhood, none of the younger kids come to the masjid, the college guys. And they said, we try everything, we go visit them, they don't listen to us. And can you do something because, you speak English, you're from America. Do something different. I said, okay, I'll do it, but you won't like it. I said, let's have a barbecue. We'll have a barbecue, and then we'll have a halaqah after. They said, no, how are you going to put a halaqah and barbecue together? Right? These things aren't, we think of these things as normal here. In many Eastern countries, people, they struggle to actually have programs like we do. So we put it together. And, everybody enjoyed, and I talked to them, and then I said, guys, let's talk a little bit about the direction we're taking in life. We're all studying, but there's something more important. I spoke for 15 or 20 minutes. And then it was Isha time. I said, let's go to the masjid. It's Isha time. And they all came. We went to the masjid. And that day, I wish I had someone, recording that, because you'd be surprised to see all the fathers, they're like, that's impossible. Our kids never come to the masjid. They never want to come. How did you get our kids in the masjid? All of this, the reason I'm sharing this is that many times in our approach with our own children, with our own friends, with our own family, we take one approach and we think that's the way, that's the only way to engage with them. But if we are creative in the way we approach, and in our community programs, in different things that we do, we will see a great increase in number and people turning towards Islam. Then once you get them on your platform and then you explain to them, then they understand. And this is something that we learned directly from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. We don't hear the seerah just to hear the seerah, we hear it to bring it into action. And this is something that we should all walk away with. Last point I want to discuss, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ also in this year, something very, very important for us to learn, is that comforting the people that feel hurt. This is very, very important. See, in Mecca at this time, everybody that's accepted Islam pretty much is from the lower class. They're the slaves, the downtrodden. And these people, imagine how they feel when the Prophet ﷺ is giving da'wah to the people of Quraysh and they're not accepting. They feel that maybe it's because of us lowly people, because the Quraysh say, Muhammad, we won't sit with you until you remove these people. We don't want to see these slaves. Bilal was black, these slaves, and they're worth nothing for us. We don't want to sit with these people. But the Prophet ﷺ, he realizes that the companions feel this way. So he comforts them regularly. And as a matter of fact, there are many of the Meccan verses comfort the companions. Surah Al-An'am. وَلَا تَطْرُدِ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. O Prophet of Allah, don't think less of these people. Just because you don't have the elite, don't think less of these people. They spend their morning and their evening giving everything for Allah. يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. All they want is they want Allah, that's it. وَلَا تَعْبُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ. And don't think that if you don't have those people, then your message will not be successful. تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. If you prefer the luxuries of this world, you want the celebrities, you want all of the luxuries to come after you. وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. Sometimes coming together, the people that are accepting Islam, the people that are working for the deen, they may not be those celebrities. Sometimes the celebrities and the general idea of society is that it's not cool. It's not something amazing. It's looked down upon. But Allah is teaching the Prophet ﷺ, don't belittle this. Don't belittle this because Iman has no prerequisites. Iman does not come because you have something. Because Abu Talib was a leader. He never got Iman. Abu Jahl had it all. He was known as a gung-ho of the entirety of Quraysh. He never got Iman. Abu Lahab and Walid ibn Mughira, they had the money. Those things are not prerequisites for iman, whether you have money or you don't, whether you have a status in society or you don't, whatever it is. Allah says if you have gratitude, كَذَلِكَ فَتَنَّا بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لِيَقُولُوا أَهَؤُلَاءِ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ بَيْنِنَا أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَعْلَمَ بِالشَّاكِرِينَ. Allah says Allah knows who is grateful. And who is grateful, and Allah sees an effort for them, Allah gives them iman. And that's why for us, we should remember, because many times we think we're born Muslims. So we think we'll die Muslims as well. We think everything is set for us. We think take Islam for granted. The Prophet of Allah, he would ask and he would say, Ya muthabbit al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala ta'ati. Oh, the one who makes the heart steadfast, make my heart steadfast with you. And last night after Isha, I spoke about riyah. I spoke about the idea of showing off our actions. Someone said, well, how about when shaitan comes and says that you're doing very good? I said that struggle, it lasts till the very end. That struggle sticks with you till the end. But keep in mind, the Prophet of Allah, he said, a person continues to do good until it so happens that his last action is something that is evil. And Allah takes his iman away. The person dies on that. And a person continues to do bad until the last action is an action of good. And that action of good saves him from the hellfire. And we don't know which camp. We hope and we pray, we ask Allah. But we should never think that iman is guaranteed for us. We should work for it. Because Allah says that He only gives iman to those that are grateful. So the Prophet of Allah, these are some of the things that we learn because of these companions. If the elite had accepted Islam and the downtrodden were thrown away, we would never have learned this. But we learn this again, that the Prophet of Allah, how he would comfort them, how many of these verses came down specifically talking to the Prophet of Allah about these people. وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Be patient with these people, and if you stick with these people, then a time will come. If you've gone through the difficult part, a time will come. Tufail ibn Amr, 30 days, it didn't work out, only 3 people accepted Islam. It took 10 years. But everyone came around from those. And it would take the Prophet, as we'll learn at the end of our seerah sometime later, inshallah, after his 23 years. It took 23 years. It took time. And it seemed like we don't really have anything, but after 23 years, victory does come. But it comes at its due time. So ask Allah He allows us to embody this. And when we go about, we don't just, I usually focus more on the stories, but I wanted to focus more on the reflections this time. Of some of this stuff that is very important that we take home and that we practically need to implement. In our lives, in our families, in our homes, in our social circles, in our friends, these are things that if we apply, these are literally magic tricks. They're from the Seerah. It works wonders. It works wonders for the companions of the Prophet. These are things that we should take home with us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. As always, we have refreshments inshallah.